Monumental Moments, where we live to multiply His movement. I'm Melissa Machenbacher, and this is a place we passionately pursue and proclaim Jesus. Today's Monumental Moment on the Fuel for the Harvest podcast is titled, Do You Go to Church? My husband and I got the privilege to travel to Belize with my parents recently, and it was so much fun as we set out to sail for a week. Let me tell you, it was a soggy, salty mess. We were out at sea in the middle of a tropical storm, and we didn't even realize it at the time. There was so much rain. Actually, there was 18 inches of measured rain that week. At one point, our designated meteorologist, my mom, pulled up the sailing weather app to kind of consider our sail plan for the next few days as we sat rocking by the waves while tied to a mooring ball, and the weather was actually really crazy. But for a moment, we were sitting dead center in the middle of a tropical storm, the eye of the storm. There were calm seas under our boat at the moment, but rain and weather and wind and gray clouds seemed to be at every turn. As far as the eye could see, for 360 degrees, it was just dark and really notably stormy. We had talked and read and played cards and played bingo and stared off into the distance. And I remember at one point my husband said to me, "What are you thinking about?" And I said, "Liliana. I can't stop thinking about Liliana." Just a couple days before we had set out to sea, we had went to grab lunch at a local Belizean restaurant. It was unbelievable. At least that's what they say in Belize. Not because of the food, but because of what happened at the lunch table that day. You know, it wasn't just another meal at a restaurant. I truly believe it was a divine appointment. The Lord prompted me to begin a conversation with our waitress. I asked her name and complimented the beautiful restaurant and asked her how long she'd been working there. Her name was Liliana, and she was literally the sweetest young woman. The conversation carried on, and I knew the Lord was asking me to tell her about Jesus. It may sound funny to you, but oftentimes when I feel led to share Christ and I don't really know someone's story, I'll ask them, "So, do you go to church?" From there, it helps me to direct and navigate the conversation. And for Liliana, the answer was no. The Lord had directed our conversation, and after asking why, it led me to explain, "I understand. I've been there too." I told Liliana, "I've been where you are, but Jesus changed everything for me." And I explained to her He could do that for her too. And after asking and sharing and listening to Liliana, I invited her to accept Jesus as her Lord and Savior. Liliana had said no one ever told her about Jesus and what He did for her. I pulled up a seat and I invited her to sit down with my family and offered her an invitation to receive Christ. She said she was ready to receive Jesus as her Lord and Savior. I grabbed her hands and I prayed passionately with Liliana to receive Christ. With tears and thanksgiving, we both celebrated that moment. Liliana messaged me the next day and said, "I feel different today. I have so much joy in my heart." Matthew 5:13 through 16 says, "You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt loses its flavor, how shall it be seasoned? It is then good for nothing but to be thrown out and trampled underfoot by men. You are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hidden. Nor do they light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a lampstand, and it gives light to all who are in the house. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven." From sailing the salty seas to being salt of the earth, we have to remain salty. There's a term used in sailing and it's called salty sailors. All it means is you've been toughened up by experience. A sailor has a job to work the boat, and we have a job to work the harvest fields. Land and sea, everywhere the Lord would take us and send us, we have to remain salty. How can you start a conversation with someone and tell them about your Savior? Will you take it further still and go from sharing to inviting them into God's family? Let's be salty sailors that are seasoned and experienced when it comes to navigating the seas of conversation. How can you make monumental moments and multiply His movement today?